now reeling a little bit from that ZvP we've just witnessed, going into not another ZvP, but a ZvT, a matchup that I don't think we get to see too often, but one that I think really should be interesting to look at. Two very big brain players coming out from two very different regions. It is Solar versus HeRoMaRinE.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a bit of a rematch, a bit of a grudge match. I believe the last time they faced, they may have faced since then. But I do recall them facing off in the group stage of Home Story Cup now, I think 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago at this point. They did face off, and Solar was able to have a dominant performance there at LAN. But it's been a while since then. The players have been improving. They've been working on their form, and we could see a very different outcome.
Exactly, and you mentioned it earlier as well. A very important factor. It was at LAN. You know, Solar, he was able to kind of sneak around the bigness of Gabe. Oh, Gabe, you know, he just didn't notice Solar sneaking into him. I'm not sure where I was going. No, that wasn't when I was going to that. Sneaking around him, you know, that's... We are going to be loading in now onto Royal Blood. We're over here in the top right-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner. We have our red Zerg player coming out from the land of Korea. Representing On-Site Gaming, we have Solar.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the German Terran player representing Team Mouse. It is HeRoMaRinE.
You know, I was trying to go for a thing where it's like, you know, Solar, he gave HeRoMaRinE the stare of death. And that, like, intimidated him, but I realized, wait a minute, but HeRoMaRinE's too big.
He is.
To see the stare.
He's big, Poppy. Didn't even see him. Didn't notice him.
Exactly.
Until it was too late.
Exactly. That's more of what I was going for, not whatever I said.
Shaking my head. And yeah, I'm really excited to see this. My eyes are really on HeRoMaRinE more than anything. If you're curious as to what transpired in the previous series in Home Story Cup, if I recall correctly, HeRoMaRinE was very aggressive against Solar. I think we did see a 2 racks opener from HeRoMaRinE as well. Again, that has been kind of making the rounds even amongst the European Terran players in this matchup. Even they are not prone to, you know, trying it out themselves and being influenced by players like Björn. But this time, we do have a racks on the high ground. We have a much more old school standard opener.
Yeah. Very, very old school, opening up with a bit of a 1-1 Reaper into a Marine. This is about as standard as you can get, really, in a TVZ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy from HeRoMaRinE yet, as the first Reaper does make his way across the map, is looking for a drone kill if possible, and does get one very low. He wants it up!
But he ain't quite gonna get it.
Solar very, very quick to morph in that Spore, does save the drone in the end, gets his third base up and running on location. Behind this HeRoMaRinE, he's going for a very economic opener. He's going for a fast third CC before starport.
Once again, as standard as you can get here in a TVZ. We'll see what tech HeRoMaRinE decides to go for, though, when it comes to his openings. This is a very economic-focused build. But it is an opening that is also very, very versatile. Add-ons to swap it around. Should be seeing a couple of Hellions, and even that. Oh, well, unfortunate here, the placement.
Yeah, hopefully HeRoMaRinE is able to shake off those nerves. Fumbling a little bit there. You know, his hands are big, and sometimes they can fumble over the keyboard a little bit.
He has crushed a lot of mice in his throughout his career.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. As we do have that starport on the way, a very hidden starport behind the middle line, which means it's not going to add-on swap with that Rax. Are we feeling Viking first into BC, into a fusion core? It's possible.
Yeah, that would make the most sense. I was actually feeling Banshee Hellbat, but now that you mention it, without the add-on swap available, it's going to take a very long time for someone to get out, and like you said, There's that fusion core for ranged libs.
Range libs confirmed, but yeah, for those wondering, when you go for a BC opener, you don't need an add-on swap because by the time you get your tech lab on the starport, you can't do anything because you have to still wait for the fusion core to finish. So there we go. Tech lab is just being built on the starport instead. We'll see if HeRoMaRinE doubles down. This could be 2-port BC as well.
It really could. Now, the absence of the initial Viking does worry me a little bit as well for HeRoMaRinE. Yeah. Like you said, it typically means that he's gonna... It's typically an indication of doubling down, but more importantly, it also allows Solar to just dip in with his Overlord and get a very solid scout here. He sees everything he needs to see. He is going to be doubling down on that Queen production, getting Spore Crawlers as quickly as possible. Even getting the lair a little bit quicker because he just needs that tech a little earlier.
Exactly. So a great scout from Solar. As you mentioned, because we skipped on the Viking, it meant that there was no way to stop the Overlord, and now Solar's fully aware of what's going on. His goal from here is to figure out if this is going to be a transition into mech or bio. You can do either or, especially with a BC opener, and at least he also confirms that there is no second starport as well, as Solar's just producing nothing but queens, getting them all here to the front lines, and making sure he's able to, be ready here for the eventual assault.
Yeah, second starport. You love to see it, or at least I do.
Yeah. Without a second factory or a second racks, I was really curious as to what we were waiting for. And with the Overlord going down, we do not have confirmation on how committed HeRoMaRinE is with this.
Exactly. Well, he is floating that barracks up, so it's usually a pretty good indication that they are going for mech, but yeah, he's not using it for scouting or anything so far, so...
Yeah, exactly, and we do see HeRoMaRinE just shocking around with the abundance of Hellions that he does have. We do have a Spire on the way, so Solar taking this very seriously will have access to Corruptors momentarily, as HeRoMaRinE is making 2 BCs at a time, and the Hellions are looking for a way, and they do manage to... They can bypass the roaches, they go for them!
Yeah, when you have this many Hellions, it's not always a bad idea to try to fight the roaches. We can see the splash damage does add up. HeRoMaRinE is shaving off the ground army and making it a little bit easier for himself as the game continues.
Yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, looks like we had a bit of a run by as well. A couple of Lings did make their way across the map, but did not do too much damage. They were cleaned up in the end. Yamato is on the way, and Solar is about to finish his first Spire.
Indeed, he is, and I like this for HeRoMaRinE as well. He's not immediately going across the map with his initial BC. He is looking to pool them together and hit as one much more powerful force.
Yeah, exactly. That's a third starport, by the way.
Yes! You love to see it. Who needs mech? Who needs bio? When you can just go straight into Sky Terran. Well,
let's go.
The problem is you typically can't go straight to Sky Terran, so...
It's true. So, a couple things just happened. Solar did scout the main base, and he saw everything. He saw the second starport, and he saw the third starport being morphed in as well, so he's doubling down. We have Carapace, Flyer Carapace on the way, Corruptors as well, before they can really come into play. Hellions are going to be threatening a dive into this base. BCs are moving out across the map. Solar is going to have enough anti-air, but is he going to be in position?
Almost, as the Hellions continue to distract Solar, even getting a couple of kills here and there. Solar now has Corruptors out on the map, but does he have enough of them? Yamato is about to be finished up in just a couple of seconds.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We'll finish up. We are up to 3 BCs. We're about to have 5 battle cruisers, a double of armories as well. So HeRoMaRinE, of course, is committing into a mech composition. His ground army is very scarce. Like, he's got a couple of Hellions, and that's kind of it. So he does have to be very careful as he throws down a 4th starport.
Yes!
It's literally just
loving it. He's even swapping the add-ons around. Yeah, he has enough VCs for now. He's going straight into Vikings and ranged libs. Typically, when you go mech as a Terran player, especially when you scout that your opponent is a little more roach heavy, you tend to see more tanks out in the map, but not HeRoMaRinE. Gabe, he's just built different.
He is making massive Vikings to support his BCs to deal with all of these Corruptors as well. And Solar, he needs to figure this out. Without spellcasters, whether it's Vipers or Infestors, he needs something to support his army. Otherwise, HeRoMaRinE, he can snowball out of control.
You know what's the best support? Yamatos. Well,
True.
not really. As the Corruptors do immediately pounce on top of these BCs, Vikings were not quite in position to act as a buffer. 2 of them already going down. As a reminder, these BCs cost a hell of a lot more than these Corruptors do. Plus, HeRoMaRinE has stopped producing them. He swapped the add-ons around.
Yeah.
These BCs are the last BCs that he's going to be producing.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is the disastrous start for Big Gabe. 3 BCs go down instantly. The 4th one is being focused as well. And he's been building up this battlecruiser count since the beginning of the game, and he has done nothing with it. As we can see, Solar snowballing out of control. He is maxed out. There are only Vikings to defend, and there's nothing to stop the roaches on the ground.
Yeah, the Vikings should be able to deal with the Corruptors eventually, but they have to be landed if they want to deal with the Roachers, and by then, they will have already taken out this base. They would have already taken out the SCVs. I stand corrected, actually, as the Corruptors bust on through. Those Vikings were not enough to chase back the Sky Zerg of Solar.
Yeah, now it is, as this is a very battered and bruised army, but the Roaches, they just took down one of these bases. Now they're going for the planetary as well. We do have a mass repair, but Solar, he's diving on those SCVs, getting a lot of economic damage done. The Vikings are reigning supreme for now, but we have Corruptors coming in to reinforce. They are coming in to support.
Yeah, maybe even throwing down a caustic spray or 2. There we have it, just to fully get rid of this planetary fortress. Finally, they will be cleared out. This 1 BC from earlier is the only unit that attacks ground. GG is called, and Solar will be taking a very solid game. Number 1. I love the idea of what we just saw out here from HeRoMaRinE, but yeah, unfortunately, there is a reason why going straight into Sky Terran is not something you often see. I feel like those BCs, those 5 BCs that we saw, were like when a show hypes up the big bad, only for them to be taken out in one scene.
Oh, GG.
GG.
Feels, what is it, Supreme Commander Snoke, man.
Yeah.
But that was a really crisp timing. That was a really crisp timing, because if you remember, HeRoMaRinE, he was getting to like 5 starport mass Viking production, and the Corruptors attacked the BCs just before we had enough Vikings to really support them. The BCs were caught just barely unprotected, unawares. I think 3 of them died instantly. Then the Vikings showed up afterwards, but by that point it was a little bit too late. So that was a very small window that Solar was able to take advantage of.
Yeah, but he slipped on through.
He did.
He contorted.
Oh,
was it a small window, or did it only seem like a small window, you know, relative to Gabe?
True. Gabe, he makes the window look small. That's just how big he is. And yeah, again, I do believe, though, that if Solar had waited even 20 seconds, maybe even 15 seconds, we would have had an extra wave of Vikings to support those BCs, and it would have been so much more difficult to actually reset that BC count and deal with it, and then we would have seen a very different game.
Yeah, we would have had another wave of Vikings, the planetary would have been done, yeah, those Roaches would be a lot more vulnerable, those BCs would be in a much, much more defensible position, but alas, 'twas not to be. Again, loved the idea, but yeah, unfortunately for HeRoMaRinE, Solar was able to catch wind of what was going on very early and was able to prepare for it. But that was game number 1. This is now game number 2, and we are going to be loading straight into Gresvan. Over here in the top left-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the top left-hand corner, we have our red Zerg player coming down from the land of Korea, representing On-Site Gaming, OSG. He is the big brain, the brightest of all the pro gamers. It's Solar.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gresvan, we have his opponent being crazy and wild in game number 1, going Sky Terran and rushing into it, getting scouted, as you said. We have the German Terran representing Mouse Esports, or Team Mouse. It is HeRoMaRinE.
Oh. You know what? Sometimes you just need to get the memes out in the first game.
We do. You gotta get it out of the system. And speaking of, a massive shout out to Frost in the chat. Thank you so much for the raid. We appreciate it. I highly recommend checking out the VODs. I do think you'd enjoy it, Frost, because in game one, HeRoMaRinE, he didn't just go 2-port BC. He went 2-port BC into 3, 4, up to 5 starports, going mass BC Viking against Solar. It didn't work, but it was beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was. I feel like that's something that we would see in a replay of yours. But
True.
but actually succeeding.
yeah, Frost would make it work. Yeah, it's
Exactly,
true. Really,
yeah.
really big game. He needs to tune into Frost.
He
stream.
does.
Aye.
Hearts all around Frost and everybody joining us from Frost Stream.
True, less than 3. Much love. As we are getting into our next game, into game number 2, and as you mentioned, I do feel like HeRoMaRinE has probably got it out of his system for the most part. Even now, a very different opener. HeRoMaRinE, he goes for a Rax Expand, but he skips his Marine. Sorry, he skips his Reaper, going Marine first.
Yeah, a little bit safer on the one hand, but also it's gonna mean that he doesn't have much map presence at all. He won't really be able to go for any scouts to see what Solar's going for. I guess since we are on Gressvan, there is that understanding that even if Solar was going to be a bit more aggressive, HeRoMaRinE should be safe enough to deflect that, but yeah, it's still a little bit of a risk that you're taking.
Exactly. As you kind of alluded to, though, I do think this is a really smart thing to do against Solar, because unlike Dark and Ragnarok, Solar, he very rarely rushes in the early game, like a Bane bust or a Roach rush. It's just not really his MO. So I do think that it's probably safe to do this against him overall. And we can see that HeRoMaRinE is being very aggressive behind it. That is a 1-1-1, no fast 3rd CC.
Yeah.
No add-ons.
Except this time yeah, interesting. I was gonna say this time we do have the starport a lot closer to the barracks, but there's no add-on being made on that rack, so
he's doing it
yeah,
again,
I guess we're not gonna be. Yep, there we have it. I was gonna say, we're not gonna have any, early banshees or anything like that, and now we know why.
Yep, there we go. 2-port BC. Yep, second starport. This time it's thrown down immediately. If you remember, in game 1, he delayed it until after the Overlord Scout was picked off. But in the early game, because of the early Marines, he killed the Overlord straight away, so there is no Scout.
I love this from Gabe. He's recognized that the problem with how his build went in game number 1 is he didn't go big enough. Now he is tripling down, and he is just focusing every single resource in the early game towards his BCs. This time it'll work.
Yeah, he is big, he is throbbing, he's focusing on just getting as big as he can, and here we go. The 2-port BC is upon us. As we were alluding to, this is a much more efficient variation than we saw in game number 1, because game 1 he was more concerned about hiding it and keeping it hidden from his opponent, but Solar has no scouting information whatsoever. He went hatch gas pool into a 3rd base. Safety Roach Warren is thrown down, but alas, the lair is still in production, which means we will not be able to scout that main base anytime soon.
Yeah, 2 BCs. He can sneak them around or even just warp them in immediately into the main base of Solar. I doubt he's going to have enough queens to really deal with them efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, he's up to 8 queens. The thing is, he does have enough queens to deal with 1 BC. He's going to be fine against 1, but if HeRoMaRinE waits and sends 2 out instead, then things are going to snowball out of control. It's going to all depend on the reaction time here of Solar. He does have 1 spore for each base, which is nice and all, but again, he's still not entirely certain as to what is coming out.
Not at all. He does have a lot of queens grouped up by his 3rd base location, but not enough to really deal with a BC, and it's not even the 3rd base that he's going for. BC does get blinked across the map, only 1, so this is still doable for Solar.
Yeah, Solar even preemptively does pull the boys away from his 3rd base, anticipating a lot of Hellions, but alas, there were only a handful of them. The first BC gets a kill on a queen. Already here, we have more spores being thrown down. The queens do rotate on over again. The first BC doesn't do too much, but it does kill actually 6 drones.
Yeah, pretty decent damage, especially now that the BC is alive. It's going to be able to fly back home to get repaired, and have a bit of an add-on effect, a little bit of a snowball if more BCs get thrown into the mix. He does have to be a little bit careful, though, because now that Gabe has revealed his hand, Solar is working on that Spire and should be able to muster up more of a defense as 3 roaches sneak in.
Yeah, they waddle on in. Marine's going to be focused down. There is no bunker. BC has to teleport back home. No, sorry, that's the BC that just was produced even. And both battle cruisers are going to reveal themselves. This is a bit of a tell. Solar doesn't get too much damage done, but he gets a pretty important scout on how much he has to double down on anti-air.
We don't have player cams on as we're in-game, but I can already see Solar shaking his head.
Oh, yeah.
This again.
Because, mate, we have we have a third starport on the way once again. We're going for the add-on swaps here for Mass Viking. It's happening.
Love to see it.
So really, if you did come in from the raid from Frost, and if you missed out on Game 1, you're getting a glimpse on what Game 1 was, as we are going for Mass Viking production behind this to help support these battle cruisers.
Yeah, unfortunately for HeRoMaRiNE, it didn't quite work out for him because he was being a little bit more passive with his BCs that last game, and by the time Sola moved in, or rather by the time HeRoMaRiNE had a good enough Viking count to deal with Skyzerg, Solar had already picked off 3 or 4 BCs.
And is that going to happen again? Because here we go, Solar. He does scatter across now. He does see the mass starport production. The Corruptors are diving on forward. Can we teleport in time?
Yes, is going to be the answer to that. A couple of Yamatos do get thrown down. A couple of free Queens get taken out here for HeRoMaRiNE, as every single BC lives, and he should be able to repair them, and prepare more defenses.
Yeah, there we go. We have a 4th starport in production. We should be working up towards 5. The Corruptors are looking to try and pick off those weakened BCs. They're going to find maybe a Viking just barely, so they get some value, but we even have a wall of turrets here to just kind of create a safe zone for these Sky Terran units.
And this is a good sign for Gabe Light. He swapped his factory onto a tech lab. There's the tank!
Oh, okay. He's going to have something
he sorely lacked last game.
Something that does shoot down. It's good. It's going to be amazing here for HeRoMaRiNE. Likewise, he has to be very careful with these battle cruisers, but as you mentioned, this time he does have a lot of Vikings to help support him. Solar, he's looking for a dive, and it looks like he is going to get one of the BCs.
Yeah, there is math here. It's fine for Solar to lose a couple of Corruptors as long as he's able to take out a BC, but after a certain point, you hit diminishing returns.
Oh, exactly, and I think he lost like 2 or 3 Corruptors in that skirmish, which is okay, definitely okay for the time being, especially because HeRoMaRiNE, he isn't replacing the BCs, right? It's like, again, this is the backbone of his army, and he's hoping that this mass Viking force does support himself and just keep these BCs alive for the entirety of this game. He's now down to 4, but look at how many Vikings he has. He has 20 Vikings. Oh my god.
Yeah, he could really just land the Vikings, take out the Queens, and what are the Corruptors going to do then? Take out the BCs?
Yeah.
What are they going to do afterwards?
True. And here we go. We do have the Corruptors diving on forward. The Queens are having a hard time engaging, just a really awkward place for them to fight.
Yeah, Yamatos do get thrown down. These Vikings are pretty much one-shotting the Corruptors. Transfuses are being thrown, but we'll see if it's going to be enough. The Queens, with their DPS and with their range, though, are able to pick off more BCs. HeRoMaRiNE down to just 1.
Yeah, mate, these have been really clutch transfuses. The transfuses basically doubling the Corruptor count here. Only 1 BC remaining, and Solar is going to shut this down. There are barely any Vikings to support. Solar, he's taking control of the skies.
Solar doesn't even care about the 1 BC remaining. He knows that 1 BC will do nothing more than tickle his army. GG is called. Solar will be taking that series 2-0. I actually really thought it was going to work the second time.
Yeah,
I mean, I really thought it was going to work.
I wanted it to work. I mean, everything was going so much better this time for HeRoMaRiNE. That window that we were talking about, it wasn't quite there. He was able to get into his BC production. He had a good amount of Vikings to support. But mate, that fight, the transfuses were insane from Solar, keeping those Corruptors alive for so long as well. And really good target firing. As you were mentioning, he was able to shut down every BC bar 1.
Exactly. And it was really hard to notice as well as all the transfuses were being thrown out, as all of the Vikings were going down. But yeah, I didn't realize how many BCs Solar targeted down until the end of that fight, as HeRoMaRinE was pulling away and had only one BC left.
There you go, GG, well played. A really wild TVZ, and we can talk about it for days about just the mass BC nonsense that HeRoMaRinE was whipping out. But with that, we're going to be going on a short break. We're heading over to the Korean server for our next matchup. It is going to be Byun versus Nightmare.
Indeed. Stick around for that.